Joining us now to analyze today's headlines is Arun Gupta. He's a journalist and a regular contributor to The Guardian, In These Times, The Progressive, and Truth Out. Hi, Arun.
Hi, Sonali.
An armed man opened fire early this morning at a library on the campus of Florida State University, shooting 3 students. 1 student is critically injured and 2 others are in stable condition. The gunman was confronted by campus police and fatally shot. So far, no names have been released of either the shooter or the victims. Meanwhile, in another gun-related story, weapons sales in and around Ferguson, Missouri have spiked sharply ahead of the highly anticipated grand jury decision of whether or not to indict police officer Darren Wilson. Gun stores report that their products are flying off shelves, and even police acknowledge that the coming decision has the entire community on edge. The state of Missouri in recent years relaxed its gun control laws considerably, and a study this year found that deaths from gun violence rose 16% statewide. Arun, how concerned should we be about all these gun sales?
I think we should definitely be concerned. You know, we've seen incidents of armed vigilantism after the Rodney King riots in L.A. in the early 1990s, and also after Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. I think in a way it's also unfortunately instructive. You know, the worst that's probably going to happen is maybe some stores get trashed and looted, and yet the state is essentially creating an atmosphere where it's okay to kill people over that. So we see that essentially property matters more than individuals' lives, especially the lives of young African Americans. And the loosening of gun laws contributes to this kind of state-sanctioned violence.
And the grand jury decision could come as early as this Friday or even Sunday, and you can certainly tune into Uprising for special coverage. Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, who won her seat primarily because of her strong consumer advocacy, has written a withering op-ed denouncing President Obama's recent decision to name Antonio Weiss for the position of Undersecretary for Domestic Finance at the Treasury Department. Weiss has spent the last 20 years as a Wall Street insider heading the investment firm Lazard, overseeing corporate mergers and acquisitions. He oversaw Burger King's recent acquisition of the Canadian firm Tim Hortons, enabling that company to engage in what is called corporate inversion, which is simply a fancy term for avoiding paying U.S. taxes. Senator Warren slammed Obama's choice of Weiss, saying, quote, "Enough is enough," and that, quote, "neither his background nor his professional experience makes him a qualified candidate." Well, Arun, do you agree with Elizabeth Warren, and will her voice make a difference?
Yeah, definitely. But at the same time, I think we have to understand that President Obama is a hood ornament for the ruling class. He basically has done little else but to protect Wall Street, to redistribute wealth upwards. He has, there was lots of talk about Main Street, protecting Main Street, not Wall Street, when he came in, and he's done the exact opposite. But we need to see this within the contours of U.S. history, that going back to the 19th century, the role of the U.S. state has been to organize capital accumulation, first on national and then a global level, and Obama has served that interest aptly.
And finally, more than 10,000 students marched in London yesterday, demanding free public education in the UK. The march was in response to announced austerity measures and increasing privatization that would increase the cost of education. The main organizing groups, in a joint letter, said, quote, "We are determined to build a movement too big to ignore that puts free, accessible and public education back on the political agenda." They cited Germany's recent decision to cut all tuition and fees, proving that it is indeed possible. Meanwhile, here in the United States, the University of California's Board of Regents just voted yesterday to raise tuition 27.6% over 5 years, overriding vehement opposition by both California Governor Jerry Brown and the voices of students protesting outside the building. Per the increase, UC's in-state students would pay more than $15,000 a year, by 2019. Arun, I wonder how shocked UK students would be to learn that a publicly funded state university system in the US, in the state with the 8th largest economy in the world, is charging students such high fees.
Well, unfortunately, students in the United Kingdom are very familiar with this. In the last few years, they have seen dramatic tuition increases. In many places, it's tripled because of the alleged economic crisis there. Of course, higher education could be made free. That's not a problem at all. We have trillions that we can lavish on the military, on Wall Street, on corporations, on the energy industry. But this is about basically conditioning the public to brutal market forces to get them to understand that they are themselves nothing more than a commodity. And I think it's excellent that the students are calling for free public education. We need more movements that are unabashedly demanding redistributive policies.
Arun, always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Arun Gupta is a journalist and a regular contributor to The Guardian, in these times, The Progressive, and Truth Out. We'll be right back after this break.